Back in late May of 2010, I restarted the Ask Ian feature. Now, in February of 2011, I'm on page 4 of 12. So thank you all for your patience. I am now going to dive in, and we are going to get these questions answered. CD Brereton, sorry about that, asks, or rather writes, "Hey Ian, just wanted to let you know that the Iron Dominion arc got a massive thumbs up for me. I love the world building in the Dragon Kingdom, how each bride system had its own way of working, and the various dynamics created during the story. When you decided to write the Iron Dominion arc, there were various tasks you wanted to achieve. Two prominent ones were to get the Iron Queen to be a top-rank villain, and to make Kin Monkey Khan not necessarily likable, but respectable. Basically a character who, before the arc, basically a one-shot villainess, and the other one of the most hated characters in the series. What I want to know is, under your pen, who do you think developed and grew the best once the arc reached its climax? Edit. Sincere apologies for the essay." That's okay. It took me almost a year to answer it. I think the character that developed the most would have been Kin. He had appeared the most, so he had the most character to work with, and thus we were able to focus on more of the nuance and more of the actual character itself. Iron Queen, who only had one appearance, didn't have a lot to work from, so we had to work in much broader strokes and build her up to be someone before we could really say who she was in detail. I'm hoping that now that we've gotten her to that point, we can go back and study her more deeply, while Kin is to a point where I think we can branch out and do something new at some point. Perfect Violante asks, "Ian, how long do you see the comic going on for? I don't see it ever stopping." I hope that's true. Rifu TD asks, "Is there a deeper meaning behind the brides? I was watching Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood episode 15, and Ling was talking about the clans of Sing, that world's China, and their brides and what they're for. It kind of got me thinking. Yes, each of the brides have a distinct meaning behind their names. Conquering Storm, being from the more militaristic clan, has the much more ominous name, Conquering Storm. It's very out there. It's almost vicious sounding. Constant Vigil, she's with the Shinobi clan. They're always watching from the shadows. They have a constant vigil on the rest of the world. The Bride of Rich Knights was the head of a group of thieves. They bring her rich things. Knights sounds more interesting than Rich Days, I suppose. Bride of the Endless Reach, she's got 6 hands. Her reach is endless. It's funny? Maybe? No? Okay. That's more in lines actually with the Web of Fate, which can see the future, and they read out this web, so their reach really does extend into infinity since they can see beyond the day-to-day stuff. Surface Addicts, I love that username, writes, "Just wondering, is there an official Sega mandate that says you can't break up the Chaotix permanently? There isn't an official one, but we haven't really tried to break them up permanently, so I don't think we're ever going to break them up permanently, because the Chaotix are awesome. Why would you want to forever break up the Chaotix?" DM asks, "Why have you put in the heroes don't kill plot point? I understand that Sonic and Tails aren't killing, but why wouldn't Knuckles kill Finitivus? Is he wanting to be hounded for the rest of his life by a psychopath?" Not to say Knuckles wouldn't kill someone. He certainly seemed to have killed Hunter, but it's not so much a character point as it's a personal point for me. There's a lot of hero books I grew up reading that I'm not comfortable putting in front of younger audiences because the heroes don't act like heroes anymore. Not that everything has to be, fine and dandy and always rainbows and unicorns, but there's a line between being realistic and being gruesome. And I want this book to be something that everyone can pick up and read. I want these heroes in Sonic to be the heroes of old, the ones that are good and almost, I don't want to say infallible, but not grungy, so to speak. Arbiter0416 asks, "In case Tracy does not answer this before you do, for the Sonic Universe number 13 through 16 covers, could you tell us the classic martial arts movie homages they were used to draw those covers, excluding 16, which I believe was Enter the Dragon?" I'm honestly not sure myself. I know I saw some covers that were being tossed around at the conceptual stage, but I'm not entirely sure what trace he used specifically, so you'll just have to wait until he has 10 seconds to breathe, in which case he might be able to answer the question. He's a very, very busy man. Spin asks, in Sonic Universe number 15, Fiona makes a comment to Sally saying, "This is just like old times when I was a freedom fighter. Huh, princess?" To which Sally responds back, "You may have been on the team, but you were never a freedom fighter." Did Sally not like Fiona even from the very beginning? I interpreted that statement as implying that Sally only considers those who she thinks of as friends to be real freedom fighters, and the two were not close at all during Sonic's time in space around when Fiona first joined. Or am I reading too much into the conversation and it's a basic "you betrayed us, so you aren't one of us now" argument? The line was meant more that Fiona was never a freedom fighter in spirit. She was on the team, she fought alongside them, but she never really had the freedom fighter mentality. That's why she didn't really click with the team, and that's why she chose to run away with Scourge when the opportunity arose. She wasn't really a freedom fighter, she was just more of an able body there. What Sally's saying is that Fiona, you don't get to be a freedom fighter just by showing up. You actually have to have the spirit and the willingness to fight for the freedom of others. Tylenus asks, Mighty's brawn versus Amy's hammer, which is stronger? I don't know. However, if the two were to meet, the impact would probably create an entire universe. Zarek asks, was there a specific reason Jules wasn't shown in the Iron Dominion arc, with him being susceptible to Regina's techno-magic? I thought it would have been a perfect opportunity for some character building for him. It would have been an interesting moment, but if we used every single opportunity to show off Regina's techno-magic, there really wouldn't be a lot for her to do during her return. That, and I thought Jules being taken over by techno-magic would have been rather obvious after we did the Nicole and Bunny thing, not to say a bit redundant. So it's definitely on the plate for future investigation, but it wasn't really a good time to do it during the Iron Dominion arc. The King of Shadows asks, how did Nicole take down that spider thing Regina was writing in with issue number 211? With nanites. Ruisu asks a very, very long question, so I'm going to have to parse it down here. Mogul says Sonic can't be beaten. Eggman says he could not beat Sonic because he did not took the Chaos Factor into account. And just to remember, there is this time where Sonic survives Finitivus Hex. So, Ian, are you going to explain this with some kind of fancy mad theory, use some kind of prophecy thing, or none of the above? I really can't comment on that at all, because if I do, it's going to give away future plot points, so I'm sorry you asked a very long question, and my answer is I can't say anything. Elite by Nova asks, this one's getting me curious for some time. Back in Sonic Universe number 2, Sonic told Shadow they could save the planet from the Ark with the 7 Chaos Emeralds they had, but if memory serves me, there were only 6 Emeralds during that time. Where did the 7th one come from? I'm not quite sure what you're asking, since at that time there were many green emeralds all over Mobius. So between the ones that Shadow had stolen during his first appearance in number 98, what Eggman had provided him with, and what Rouge stole from the gun vault, they all had 7 by that point in the story. I know it's not implicitly clear because there's a whole bunch of back and forth between flashback and present day, but trust me, there were 7 emeralds at that point. Spectre the Kidnat asks, does Gunn have any plans to make Rouge pay for her past criminal activities, assuming they know about them? Do you really think Rouge, an international, multi-talented gym thief and spy, would just work for Gunn because? No. She's working off her debt to society. Gunn's got her on a tight leash. Hog of the Future asks, how did Sally know she could make a firewall in cyberspace? Sally rationalized that since they were in the digital world and she knew a fair little bit of coding, that she would be able to use her digital self to affect the digital world, thus creating the firewall. Seriously Funny asks, you've previously mentioned great interest in writing a crossover story with the Mario and Sonic franchise, even though it's very unlikely it would ever happen. While it's been touched upon why this would work from a marketing standpoint, why do you believe this would work so well on more of a storytelling/narrative standpoint? How Mario and Sonic would interact with each other, for example. Oh, I could go on at length about this, but to keep it simple, I think Sonic and Mario as heroic characters would make an interesting duo. Sonic is, the kind of carefree, not always polite type of hero, while Mario is kind of the everyman, the general heroic, nice guy. So you put the two of them together, their styles of heroism are going to clash, but their inherent need to do good would allow them to work together eventually. There would be hilarious foibles in the meantime, of course, but in the end, they'd save the day.